Welcome to the Glitter Boom Girls podcast. I'm Robbie-Ann McPherson on the East Coast.
And I'm Amy Asbury on the West Coast.
We hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to our little show. So today, you all might not know that Amy and I are both authors. And we don't take ourselves seriously, but we take being authors like, you know, when we're working on something, we do take that seriously because it's just such a joy to be able to publish a book and have people read it and tell you what they think. Sometimes it's not a joy.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, right.
This book sounds like somebody's diary. It is. Sounds like a 16-year-old's diary. It is. No, you're right. I agree with you.
You just go, thanks. Yeah, so anyway, we decided let's talk about some books that affected us when we were kids. And Amy's a little different than I am. I am not an avid reader. I don't know if I have like dyslexia or something. Reading is not a super easy physical thing for me. Like it's kind of weird.
Well, I get a migraine now. I have to do the audiobooks now.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's because we're old. But
okay.
No, I mean, even as a kid, it was difficult for me to just sit still and read a book. So Amy's got a ton more. I mean, you are very well read, Amy.
Am I? I don't feel like
you've read all the classics. You've read like, I'm kind of dumb in
don't you dare! How dare you?
Language.
How dare you?
A book meter. I don't know, but well, some people are just readers. I tend to read a lot of nonfiction. That's what it is. So
I basically only read nonfiction. I don't like fiction, unless, the ones we're about to talk about. These are the books I started out with, knowing no better, choosing solely for the covers. I did love the fiction.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with you. So tell me a book that you read when you were a little girl, like a little girl, an impressionable young girl, and what impression it had on you.
The first books I read were in kindergarten, and they were called I See Sam. There were these Sam books. Do you remember Sam?
Were they yellow, like little yellow pamphlet books?
They were yellow,
and they were, but it was like stapled paper.
They were like stapled, like somebody photocopied it. You're like, did you make this?
I had the same books. Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it all started, and then it kind of went on to whatever was in the classroom, or whatever was accessible to you.
Yeah, and it's not assigned, a lot of books, right?
Right, and there wasn't really books at my house. My grandparents had a giant library, but I was like, what are these? And then I would say third grade, I had a teacher named Mrs. Graves, Betty Graves, in fact. She said, kids, we're going to the school library. And I was like, yes, because we never in my lower grades were taken to the library, that I recall. So, we go into the library. I, of course, was picking the book by the cover because there's so many. I'm like, how do I narrow this down? So I find this book called Starring Sally J. Friedman as Herself.
Oh, yes.
So it's this girl. It's a close-up. I mean, there was the covers that came after this cover were much more fun.
Right. And that's Judy Blume, right?
Judy Blume. The book was from 1977.
See, I do read.
Of course you do read. Anyway, I picked this book by the cover. It's a girl. She looks like she's my age. So I'm like, oh, a girl my age. Mm-hmm. She has on the cover, two long braids, kind of like Laura Ingalls, and a big, pretty red tropical flower behind her ear.
Oh, yeah. This is the one with it's like illustrated, right? It's like a drawing of her, and she's not in color, but the flowers. Oh, yeah. I know where you're going.
The flowers are in color. But the thing is, guys, there is a straight up picture of Adolf Hitler on the cover of the book, which I never knew because I'm like, oh, some guy. But the book is it's set in the 40s.
Yeah.
And she's nervous about the war. And the whole thing is, it's all of her paranoias and fears about what's going on. And it was a real thing that kids really were going through. So it wasn't it wasn't meant to be funny or anything like that. But yeah, I didn't know I was walking around with that guy on the book cover. Hey guys. But anyway, that book, and if I could tell you a little bit about it. Rob, have you read this one?
You know, I did. I read like every Judy Blume book, but so many years ago.
So many years ago.
Yeah, I don't really remember what
Well,
that
if
one
you
was about.
remember, so Sally, she has a brother named Douglas, and he somehow gets hurt. He slips in a creek. He gets pneumonia, and I think they lived somewhere up north where it was very cold. And the doctor was like, "Hey, you guys need to go down to Miami. He needs drier weather to,
Oh,
anyway, they
yeah, yeah,
go
yeah.
for a
Okay, okay.
season."
Yeah, yeah. I remember. I remember the story now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they move from, it was Jersey they lived in, to Miami Beach. So anyway, one of the main parts of the story is where Sally meets a guy named Mr. Zavodsky, and he offers her candy, and that kind of got my fears, like, oh, because there's always a creepy man around the valley doing the same thing,
Right.
and anyway, I guess the guy looked similar to, you know, the Austrian maniac on the cover.
Okay.
So yeah, they're like, is it him? And they're just kind of scared and they think he's in disguise. Anyway, it's kind of crazy. And I actually ended up learning about so much about the war, about so many different things that I never would have had access to had I not picked up this book. And she's talking about a lot of pop culture things from that time. She's talking about Rita Hayworth and Margaret O'Brien and Esther Williams and rationing and party lines, all these things from the 40s that I never would have known about. Bing Crosby and Humphrey Bogart, and I'm like, oh, who are these people? So really, really neat story. And I thought, wow, she's just like me. She's curious. She's scared. She makes up things in her head. She's, just all the things she does, all the friends she has. But and also just afraid her father's going to pass away or afraid something's going to happen in the war. I really ended
Yeah.
up really relating to her as a character and actually learning quite a bit at 8 years old from this wonderful book.
Wow.
I loved
So
it, guys.
so this is like a it was an eye-opening book for you.
I thought, wow, because, if you think about it, you're at your house with your parents. Whatever's on the television is another little area you can go in the world. Oh, where's that?
Right.
But then when someone writes a book, it's a little portal to give you a little bit more than your parents are giving you. That's how it is with me or your teachers. And you can get a little further out there with each book you read and go a little bit more down different tunnels. So this was one of the tunnels. She's learning about how babies are made. And I didn't really understand a lot of the things in here, but her mother drinks something and gets a little tipsy. And I was like, ooh, what's that mean? Just all these things that my mom probably would have been like. Actually, my mom ended up getting really upset when Judy Blume started to get banned in the 80s.
Oh.
Because she bought me, she's, wow, my daughter's rereading this book over and over and over. And I was like, Mom, can I have some more books? But yeah, so she bought me every Judy Blume book. And then she was furious when she heard on TV that all the stuff that they were talking about in these books. But I
Judy Blume
loved
dared to talk about like the truth and
real
reality.
things. And then the second one would be right after Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which was from 1970, way before that. You read that one.
Oh yeah, we must increase our bus. No time.
But
What is
that
it?
one,
No time to say hello, goodbye. We must increase our.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Remember the girls at the slumber parties? They would
The
all
slumber
push their hands together and do these exercises
Yes.
to make their bra size bigger.
Their pectoral muscles.
Yeah, and they would chant, "We must increase our bus."
What was their club called? Oh, I think it was just like the first letter of their names or something. But
Yeah,
there was.
that was a see now. Isn't it interesting how, first of all, if you look at what kids are exposed to today, oh my God. I mean, Judy Blume books are like, just this total,
Judy Blume book snuck in because, oh, it's a book.
Yeah. And it was a young adult book. It wasn't like a grown-up book, like when you went and stole your mom's copy of Princess Daisy or something. It was like a young,
like Fear of Flying, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It was a young adult book, had cartoons on the cover and, but I got, what I got out of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, is I was so in my head when I was a teenager, and I didn't have a super buzzy social life because for a long time when I was a kid, we lived in the woods. Like we lived,
Wow.
in this property, and there was a long driveway. So I had no neighbors. So I was always in the trees and playing outside and, swimming in the lake and whatever. But even when we moved to the neighborhood where I was as a teenager, and there were lots of kids in the neighborhood, we still were the last house. We were, tucked back, and all the other kids in the neighborhood were in different cliques and stuff. So I didn't really have people to bounce ideas off of or feelings and stuff like that. So when I read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which honestly, I think I read that. I was probably in 6th grade, I think, when I read that.
That's appropriate. That's when you should have read it.
Yeah, 5th or 6th, maybe. And I just remember going, oh my God, other teenage girls think like I do. Like they think these weird, deep thoughts, and, they're not just sitting there like, oh, okay, and makeup and lip gloss. Like I was one of those kids, and I was always like thinking about shit.
Oh, yes.
Like the bubble over my head was always like a gyroscope, whereas some other girl's bubble was like a boy. I was always like, but what does the world, where did it come from? What's the meaning of life? Like, so that was cool.
I definitely, something occurred to me in this book that started out in the Sally book was the Jewish faith. I did not know a lot about it because we were a different religion. And I was like, oh, this is a whole different thing.
Yeah, same here.
And it was great because Margaret was kind of, sadly, her parents, it wasn't sad, but she felt sad about it because her parents, they were not any religion. I believe her father was Jewish and her mother was Catholic or Christian or something like that. And she was kind of trying out both the synagogue and the church. And I thought like, oh, wow, what would that be like, to have to choose? And she felt like she was betraying one grandmother over the other. And that was so big. And I never would have thought about that because your parents back then are just telling you what they know.
Right.
And just really interesting. And not only that, but puberty, very embarrassing to me, at least, to ask somebody about. Clearly,
no, the whole puberty thing, I learned, I think, everything I needed to know from that book.
Yeah. And then, she gets her first bra. And then her, womanly time, that thing. And then she had the neighbor or the friend that we all kind of had. Her name was Nancy.
Yes.
And she was, the one who knows everything and, starts a rumor. I don't know if she started the rumor, but there was a girl in the class named Laura Danker. And she was very well developed. So they all everyone started rumors about her,
Right.
And just like, gosh, that's horrible. So many things that I don't know, so many things you didn't really think about before. And then they played that game 7 Minutes in Heaven, or I think theirs was called 2 Minutes in the Closet, actually.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever play games like that?
I did not. No, I never went to any of those parties.
I was never invited to something like that. My sister did, but
no, I wasn't either. I know that other girls did. There was a lot of spin the bottle and a lot of that 7 Minutes in Heaven. The things that we did do though was that whole stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board.
You did that?
Oh my God! And it worked. It was the freaky. It was so. My friend Pam's house. Shout out Pam. We had a slumber party there, and somebody was the volunteer, and for all of you guys listening, if you don't know what this is, it's when
called demon freaking summoning.
It's like Ouija board shit. So somebody lies on the ground on their back, and everybody takes 2 fingers and just lightly puts them under the person to lift them up. So you just kind of everybody's kind of like looking like they're going to lift this person up, but just with these 2 fingers. And everybody chants, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather.
How did this become a thing for slumber parties? I just
who knows? How does anything become anything, right?
It's some straight up seance, crazy shit.
Oh yeah, it was total wizardry. So sorcery, So then at some point, I don't remember what the thing is though. At some point somebody says something like lift her up or whatever, and then you lift them. And we did it, and it worked. I don't know. It was really creepy.
And were you guys crazy. All in your nightgowns and stuff, like I imagine?
Yeah, our pajamas. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't really sleep in nightgowns. I always had pajamas.
Oh, I always had a nightgown. And it always had like Garfield or the Smurfs on it, by the way.
I had like sweatpants, flannel pants, but I
Oh my
grew up in
gosh.
cold weather, so
Okay, there's an explanation of the trick.
get
You're not
out.
going to believe
All
this.
right,
Should I
all
say
right.
it?
Yes. So okay, wait. Let's just let everybody know though. Here's a spoiler for all the ladies listening who had these slumber parties. Okay, if you don't want to know how stiff as a board, light as a feather
That's right.
worked, tune out now. Okay, and just
Right.
skip to our next episode. So go ahead, Amy. Lay it on us. How
The
does it work?
key to the trick is timing. Each of the lifters must apply the lifting force at the same moment. When this is done, the weight of the subject is divided equally between each lifter, requiring each person to contribute only 12 to 20 kilograms to lift to raise a 50 to 80 kilogram, which is a 110 to 176 pound person. This is about the same as each person lifting up like a heavy shopping bag. It's like nothing. So if the trick is performed without synchronizing the lift, it's going to fail.
So
If everyone does
that's
it at different times, it'll fail. But if they do it with that many people, and also some people deliberately misdirect and mess it up if you want to mess it up.
oh no, we
Because
didn't mess it up, man.
sometimes they say, okay, go ahead and try to lift to show that it can't be done, and then they go, okay, let's try it again. So some people who remember performing the trick as a child will have exaggerated their memory of the effect. I don't know, not necessarily,
No,
but yeah, this
it
has
makes
been
sense
going on
though,
for a long time,
because that's
and
exactly what happened to us. We
yeah,
all lifted at the exact same time, so it was just distribution, I guess. That's dumb.
it's dumb. It's a kind of a ghost story
I wanted
thing.
it to be
Anyway,
sorcery.
I didn't like it. But it scared me. But yeah, so yeah, the whole like spin the bottle and that, and 7 minutes in heaven, and
Hmm.
so yeah, if you weren't having a very active social life, maybe these books were for people like us. I think they let us get into little. Well, if that's pretty social of you to be playing that game, though. I never got to play that game.
Well, we had a bunch of slumber parties, but see, my friend Pam and I we had a history of staying over at each other's houses on weekends.
That's so fun.
I mean, it's probably part babysitting for the parents or whatever, and part because the two of us would just laugh our asses
Oh,
off.
how fun!
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. We had just had an ability to make each other laugh so hard, and we would stay up late on Saturdays and watch Saturday Night Live, and we would get all jacked up on Pepsi and candy and cookies and
That
junk
is
food.
delightful.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah,
I had that with my friend Erin, my friend Liz, it was just so much fun. And same thing, staying up, watching the videos.
yeah.
Don't you feel like when you went to people's houses, don't you feel like their food was always better?
Oh yes. Well, no wait. With
Tamar's food was great.
with a
Like
couple of
Erin always had
exceptions.
Doritos. Like
Yeah, Pam's house. Pam always had really good food, and her mom always had a bowl of M&Ms.
a bowl of
There was always a bowl
M&Ms.
of M&Ms around, and her mom she loved to cook, so there were always these elaborate meals and yeah,
Wow.
there was always better food, but there was always that one household though where you went over there and all their stuff was like bulk co-op crap, and it was all like oats and
I didn't
you
have
know
I didn't have one of those.
yeah. Oh, I did. And
Everyone,
we had,
the
I think there
three
were
girls who I
three.
went to their house had the best food ever. And then some of their when I was a little older, I'd spend the night at Tamar's and her all of her bathroom products. Do you remember like other people's
Yeah,
products are
yeah.
always better? You're like, damn, I need that in my
And
house.
you'd go to the bathroom and you'd be in there for like a half an hour because you're like
Looking through
sniffing
their
all the
stuff.
lotions. And, yeah,
Like, oh,
not
she's
like
got a lot of
snooping, but it was just like,
lotions.
wow, what is this? Oh my
It
God,
was
look at that.
neat.
And their moms would have like all these, exotic perfumes and different makeup than your mom. And so you'd
You
have
had
to
to
like
look at it.
dig around and
You
look at it.
had
Yeah.
to look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah. Oh, but we digress.
But we digress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We
anyway,
digress.
that was Are You There? Goddess Me Margaret. And books like that, I think at that time Judy Blume may have written 10 books as such.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made it a little easier to go into puberty remembering these things that Judy Blume talked about. And she did one on divorce called It's Not the End of the World. And my parents did not get divorced until a little bit later, but I really felt all the feelings of the girl in the book, everything. Wow, what would this be like,
Yeah.
So you just learn a lot from these books.
One of the earliest actual like books that wasn't like a little kid reader, the series that I really remember kind of sparking a lot of recognition in me was the Ramona Quimby books by Beverly
Yes.
Cleary. She was just this like goofball of a kid, and I was a complete goofball. And she bumbled into all these goofy circumstances and mistakes. Like one I remember so vividly, and I still think about to this day because I actually did it.
No.
Yeah, she was supposed to go out for the bus in the morning, and her mother had to leave for some reason before. So her mother goes over with her in detail everything she needs to do. She's got to lock the door, remember your lunch, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, Ramona, you have to leave at 8:15. You have to go at 8:15. That's when you go out to the bus, And so
Okay.
Ramona's like, okay. So then her mom leaves, and Ramona's sitting there, and like the clock's ticking, and she's like kicking the chair, waiting. And she goes, okay, well, a quarter is 25 cents. So at 25 minutes after 8, that's when I go for the bus. And she misses the bus, of course, and then all this hilarity ensues. But I mean, I literally did that when I was a kid.
That's
like,
so cute.
I just did dumb stuff like that where, and that's where oh no, Robbie, oh no, you missed the bus. Like that was my mom, just going, oh my God, what did this kid do now? Like I was always getting stung by bees and, it's
just so cute.
Some crisis. So
and was Ramona a redhead? I feel like she was a redhead.
No, I don't think so. I think she had brown hair.
She had brown hair, and it's interesting that these were written in the 50s because they would re-release the covers and they would be fresh as a daisy. They still apply.
Oh, yeah. You know what? In the absence of technology, that's the only thing that's really, it's like Brady Bunch episodes. Like, even though they're dated, you still relate to what's going on and the feelings and the people and the characters. And her character, Ramona, is so vivid. And you love her. It's like, oh my God, this kid, But
I just remember she had a doll named Chevrolet. She loved car names.
Yes. That's exactly like.
That's just so cute,
That's exactly what.
And then she took a bite,
do.
One bite out of a whole bunch of apples. Like she just did.
Right.
She
like a giant pile of apples,
happen.
and she took one bite out of each one. Now that was totally me when my mom would get a box of candy. Like the fancy candy from somewhere, like my dad or somebody. And I would open the box and I would shove my little tiny thumb in the bottom and see what was in each one. So my mother would take out the candy and put it up to her mouth and see there was this tiny little thumb smush, indent.
Busted.
Oh no, Robbie, what did you do to my candy? Because I didn't I only liked, the caramels. I liked the truffles and the vanilla creams. Those are my favorite. But if it had
so you were
cherry,
testing them out?
Oh
yeah.
If it had the cherry in it, I didn't want it. If it had the coconut, I didn't want it. And the maple one I wasn't crazy about. So I would smush my thumb in the bottom and be like, oh no, that's cherry. Smush my thumb in the bottom. Oh no, that's nougat. Oh no, Robbie.
Totally.
Yeah, so I loved those Ramona books. I related to them a lot. In fact, I was thinking the other day. Tell me what you think about the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys think about this too, because I'm interested in the hive mind opinion about this. What do you think about rereading those books now? Like, should I? Because I sort of feel like, I want to relive, I want to revisit. But in a way, I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm way too old. Second, they should just live in my memory. I don't know. Is that weird? Is that weird to go and reread these books?
I reread Blubber, another Judy Blume book, to my boy as a bedtime story maybe 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't count because he's appropriate age.
I'm just saying, I read it. I ended up reading it. And I thought, wow, this is brilliant. And at first I thought, oh, I don't want to reread it and have it be like fall flat. No, it was
Right,
in my head.
right.
It was brilliant. It was great.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do
It
it.
was great.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to reread a couple of my favorite Ramona
I
books.
I actually really still liked it, and I even saw things that I didn't understand or get before. So you might actually think it's super cool to do that.
Okay. You know what? I will. I will.
Hmm.
Um, the other the other one, which is super common, I know, but
Mm,
I think that's for a good reason. When I was
yeah.
in sixth grade, so 79, I tackled the Chronicles of Narnia series.
Oh, what a great one.
And oh, yeah, and I read it in the winter.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
and just to give you a place and time, like Tragedy by the Bee Gees was on the radio, and it was like really cold and it was a
Arctic
bad
glass.
winter. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was brutal. And we were living in this isolated, woodsy house. So I spent a lot of time by myself in my room. And these books, I mean, that first book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it is that I mean, C.S. Lewis just paints pictures with words. Like I was in another world. It was almost like when I was reading it, I fell asleep and I was dreaming. Like
Wow.
dreaming it, I was in this land. It was so compelling. And I think I stayed up till like 2 o'clock in the morning one night because I couldn't stop reading it. My mother's like, "When you go to bed," but I just couldn't. Like you get the flashlight, the covers.
You were in your pajamas. What was your room like in sixth grade around you and your book?
I had two twin beds.
Oh, cute.
I had the nubby bedspreads. What do they call that? There's a fancy
Oh,
designer name for that, but they're like those little nubby
I don't
bedspreads.
know. That's cool. And you were reading
And
your book.
yeah, and it was it was a big room. It was first floor. It was a ranch house, and I had a little dressing table.
Oh, how adorable.
Yeah, yeah, and I got a lot of bloody noses. Did you ever get nosebleeds when you were a kid?
I
Just
did not.
oh, you never had the random bloody nose, and then you'd have to like run to the nurse.
No,
I had
no.
nosebleeds all the time.
I always had strep throat. I feel like I always like, got that like once a
Oh,
year.
oh no, I don't think I ever got strep throat when I was a kid. But
So
yeah,
you're sitting
nosebleeds
there
all the
reading
time.
Narnia with your flashlight in just
Yeah.
sixth grade. And you know what's interesting? I can't believe that was also, I guess that's kind of timeless, but that series was also published in the 50s, which
Right.
is interesting, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, and once again, totally um the themes are so universal and I was so
So interesting.
like uh of course when you get older and you really
Yeah.
get into like especially with C.S. Lewis, like he's always writing with these subtexts and everything, but
Oh, yes.
he had he had these religious themes and God and kingdoms and stuff.
Aslan.
Yeah,
Remember
exactly.
Aslan the
Aslan, and
lion?
then you had the White Witch, and then the
Oh, gosh.
wardrobe. I mean,
Wow.
because the way
Yes.
he starts the story, right, where they go into
Hmm.
this wardrobe at it was his grandpa's house, right? And they go into the back and then they just keep going and going and they're in these coats and they're like, what the hell? And it just goes on forever and all of a sudden they're in this winter wonderland. Like, what?
So crazy. So crazy. You know, they were at Professor Diggory Kirk's
Oh,
house.
that's right.
I don't know
That's right.
why, but I mean,
That's right.
they
Yeah,
had to
they
be there for some damn reason. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I can't remember. Isn't that funny? I can't remember now why they
He appears in he's also in The Magician's Nephew and The Last Battle, and I can't remember. He might be I don't know. We'll have to look it up. But yeah, so that's where they are, and he comes back a couple times. But yeah, they go through that wardrobe,
Mhm.
and that's where they realize, didn't they run into some centaur or something?
Yeah, and the way that C.S. Lewis describes all these creatures, I mean, I was in it, and I remember him
Hmm.
talking about the ambrosia candy that
Yes.
and like I remember
Turkish delights and all that.
exactly the Turkish delight. It was God. It was just vivid. Is if I had to name that whole series in one word, I'd say vivid. It was really an incredible trip. That and I loved all the books. I just,
And I
except
loved
for, you know what, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
that was my least favorite.
Yeah, I
And
had trouble getting through that one. That was a
so
little.
tell me if you remember these, because this is what I'm thinking. So the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, they kind of became kings and queens in this land.
Mm-hmm.
And then Prince Caspian was the next one, where what are they? Do you remember about Prince Caspian?
Well, I get all the. I don't remember anymore what
They're all kind of
happens
linked
when.
together. And then Dawn Treader, they're on a boat.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember, except for that one because I just didn't. God, it was dull.
It was still. And then there was like The Horse and His Boy, where this guy had it was a boy named Shasta and a talking horse named Bree. Okay, I remember I was like,
Hinny winny, hinny winny,
my
hinny winny.
favorite one though was The Magician's Nephew.
Yeah, that was a
I
good
just
one.
really, really, really loved it. And that's kind of how Narnia started.
Right.
So it was that professor and his friend, they stumbled into these different worlds and they had these rings. And that one I felt like was really, really good.
I'm really confused by why the Narnia series wasn't made into movies like the Harry Potter ones were.
It
Like
was.
I know there was
Yeah.
but the whole series wasn't. And it didn't do that well and it stalled out. And
You're right.
I've never really seen any Harry Potter at length, and I never read those books, but I always from the little bits and pieces I've seen and just stuff on the news or whatever, I'm like, God, this is kind of like Narnia. Like they could have. I mean, if the right filmmakers got a hold of those books and the one that they did make, I thought was beautiful. So I don't get it. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's because Harry Potter is new and came out now, and
It
whatever.
could have been. And these were, I mean, they were published in the 50s. I remember the box set. It was a 1970 box set. Did you have the box set?
I had the box set. It was like a white box.
It was white, and I think those covers really did a lot to make us want to read it. That white box set was really, really great.
I don't remember how I got the box set, though. Isn't that funny? I don't remember. I remember having it.
I don't either.
But
and
I
I think they actually
how.
changed the order of some of the books and when they redid the box set a little bit later on.
Yeah.
They changed the order of them. So that annoyed me.
I got
greatly.
in a ton of trouble one night because I was reading, I think it was The Magician and His Nephew.
Magician's Nephew.
The Magician's Nephew. It wasn't the first one because I'd already finished the first one. And I was supposed to do the dinner dishes. And my mom was like watching TV and stuff. I'm not sure if my dad was home or not. And I'm like, well, but Mom, can I go read for a little while? And she's like, no, you got to do the dishes. Load the dishwasher. And I was so into it. I couldn't wait. So Mom's like watching her shows. And I snuck back in my room and I sat there and I was reading more of the book. And I was so into it that, 2 hours went by and all of a sudden, oh no, Robbie, the dishes aren't done. Get in here and do these dishes. And I got in a lot of trouble. She was like,
that's not good.
It was pretty funny. I mean, it's funny now.
Well, I love that you read those. And I think that they really hold up and they're really beautiful. And there was another series that was old and kind of brought back that I recall really, really loving. And they kind of renamed these books. The first one was Ballet Shoes, which has been a movie throughout the years. And they were published, I believe, in the 30s by Noelle Streatfeild. Her name is Mary. It's either Noel or Noelle, but it was a woman, so it's not. I don't know
not
exactly
like Noel
how
Coward.
she was. Yeah, something like Noel Coward. But anyway, Ballet Shoes was from 36. Then she had one called Tennis Shoes from 37. There was circus shoes. There was theater shoes, party shoes, movie shoes, skating shoes. Like there was 10 of them. And they had these great covers, and they were like really colorful candy box covers. They're like Dell Yearling, those kind of glossy looking kids. It were really, really neat covers. So that's how I first saw them. Because I remember back in the day at the bookstores, there was like one tiny section for the kids section. It was like one shelf.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, really? This is all I got?
Right.
But anyway, these books were there. And when I came upon these books, it might have been 1985 or something. But they were all about kids on the stage, doing stage training. They were all kind of around the First War. They had similarities, but most of them were kids who were recently orphaned,
Oh
or
God.
they were all in the performing arts, or they were like sports prodigies. And there was one book that was more just regular kids, and that one was called Family Shoes. Just talked about a family, but the rest of them were kids who were working on the stage, and it gave me kind of a work ethic because I thought, wow, it just showed their whole routines and their costuming, and
Wow.
it talked about a lot about different Shakespeare plays, and then I'd go look up Shakespeare plays, and my hippie parents are like, huh? But it gave me again another little tunnel to carve out.
Yeah.
Wait, what are they talking about? And
Oh,
these
I
these
wish I'd
pieces of
known about those.
music.
I never heard of those books.
Oh
I,
my
I
gosh,
would have
well,
probably loved those
you
books.
would have loved them. They were re-released. Well, you weren't a kid anymore when they were re-released, so they would have gone right past you. But
I
you know
see.
what I
So they were
mean?
sort of like, it was like 1917 or something, and then boom,
Boom in
1985.
the 80s,
Oh,
85.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and then it just hit someone my age. I was 11. I
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
missed
yeah.
it too. But I then learned about pieces of music, composers, all the whole and a bunch of French phrases, and then I bought a French dictionary, I asked for one and they were like, "Excuse me?" But it was all because of
Merci
these
beaucoup.
books. No, but then I started becoming interested in different countries and different pieces of music, and they were all training, and I thought
Yeah.
like I want to be disciplined with something, and it made me want to be really disciplined.
But did
Anyway,
it work?
it did. I was psychotic. I would write plays and write books, and it was just
And look at
insane.
you wrote a million books, a million great
Oh, but
books.
these kids, I thought like, oh, I want a job, so it really suited me.
Job.
I wanted to work so bad. I wanted to run an empire, I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to work. I made my own little jobs, but yeah, these books really suited me. So if you out there have a kind of an old-fashioned kid, they will really like this set.
Yeah,
Look it
like
up,
old
Noel
soul.
Streetfield.
If your kid's an old soul.
Totally,
Yeah.
yeah. And if you're a super hippie and your kid's like Alex P. Keaton, like I was, they'll love these books.
Oh, I love that, Aim.
Super cute. Now, did
Yeah.
you have any book that like totally throw you for a loop to where it like made you upset, or did you read any
Oh, yeah,
books
the
like
other
that?
way. Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. There's a book called The Bear's House by
The
Marilyn
Bear's House.
Sachs.
Oh
Oh,
my.
OMG. I read this book. Let's see. I was probably seventh grade.
Okay.
'Cause my parents had already started splitting up. Like they
Oh,
were already split. I don't
worst.
remember what stage the whole divorce was in, but and it was a very, very dark time for me. And
Oh,
just it's terribly scary. And and I know any of you guys whose parents have divorced, it it just because it's common doesn't mean that it's
exactly.
easy or there's anything about it that's normal. And um, it was not easy in our family. So inexplicably, I don't remember if it was an assignment or if I just found this book in the library. I was in the library a lot. And it is a story about a single mother, and she
Okay.
has a daughter and a younger like toddler son, like a baby son. And
Okay.
I had it was me and my brother was 7 years younger.
Oh, so Fran Ellen and Fletcher. I'm
That's
seeing the
right.
names. Is that them?
Yep. And
Oh my
basically,
goodness.
Fran and so the gist of the story is that in the classroom,
Okay.
Fran Ellen's teacher has this bear's house. It's like a doll house with a bear family, like these little bear dolls,
Oh,
and it's in the
uh-huh.
classroom. And Fran Ellen is obsessed with it. Like she I mean obviously she's trying to escape her life, and her mother is terribly their family lives in really bad poverty, and I will tell you, the book does not end well. Like
It says like she sucks her thumb, she smells bad. Is she like bad, has bad hygiene because of the
well,
mother?
yeah, it's like a because they're very poor, and the mother, I
Oh,
mean, it doesn't really spell it out, but the mother is obviously maybe depressed or mentally suffering somehow, and isn't really mothering them like she should.
It looks like they're hiding from CPS or something. It looks like they're trying to they're being investigated and they're trying to hide from the
yeah,
investigators or something like that.
yeah, because that's what Fran Ellen's biggest fear is that,
How
if
sad.
she tells anybody what's going on, then CPS is going to come and take them away because her mother is such a mess.
That's
So
gotta happen a lot. That's gotta happen a lot.
yeah, it was that was not my situation, of course. I mean, my mom was not a terrible mother, but the fear that Fran Ellen carried and how she just poured herself into this house,
Oh,
almost like astroplaned herself into this little bear's house,
yeah.
because it just, that was, to her, that was like safety and security and stuff. And I had lost my safety and security, and man, that book just impacted the crap out of me. And you know what? Speaking about rereading a book,
Mm.
I picked it up not too long ago, a few years ago, I think. And I started I got it on Kindle,
Yeah.
and I was going to reread it, and in my mind I thought, you know what? I'm going to reread it, and the little kid in me is going to see it now through my adult eyes,
Okay.
and it's
I would
going to
have thought that. Yeah.
yeah, like it's going to somehow heal something. Yeah,
Okay.
whatever. I was just trying, I was reaching. So, and I don't know what made it pop up. I guess um I don't know, maybe I saw it somewhere or whatever. So I reread it, still punched me in the gut just as bad. I mean, it
Oh.
was like, instead of
So what
me,
happens at the end? I need to know.
well, there really is no resolution. Like, at the
Oh.
end, you want the mother to get help. You want Fran Ellen to be okay. You want Fran Ellen to take home the dollhouse because the teacher, it's her last year, and she's going to give the dollhouse to somebody. And the brother is sick, and oh my God, it's just brutal.
It's horrible. It's
And
so
then
sad.
the ending doesn't resolve anything. So
So
it
as a
literally
kid, you're just
drops
like,
off a
what?
cliff. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
brutal.
horrible. That's
But
horrible.
all that being said,
Mm-hmm.
it is a very beautifully written book. I mean, I don't know why people want to read sad stories. Like, I hate sad movies. I hate sad anything because I don't need it. But
Yeah.
like, I don't need to go there. But this is it is a beautifully written book, and she won all these awards,
Yeah,
and
it says that she was a finalist for the National Book Award in '72 with that
yeah,
book.
yeah,
That's
it was very
substantial.
it was a very well it was critically acclaimed. But man, that was a jeez, like, that was a
You
tough
wanted
one.
a sitcom ending. We were used to the endings that were tied up on these sitcoms, I feel
Well,
like.
yeah, and especially
I was.
if you read a book that in any way resembles or makes you relate to your current situation, and you're a little kid like that, it's really important that it ends well. This book did not end
You
well.
know, that's sad.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm interested, though, to take a look at it. I have
yeah,
not heard about it. I read one in fourth grade called Bridge to Terabithia or Bethia. I don't know, guys.
yeah. I
But
thought it was Terabitha, but nope, I was wrong. I've been saying it wrong all these
I
years.
think I've said anyway. I started liking it because there's a guy named Jess, and he meets this girl named Leslie, and they kind of like build this whole beautiful thing in the forest and the woods, and you're the queen and I'm the king, and I just thought like this is beautiful. And this is how I played with my friends also. My friends Liz and Paul, we'd go out into the wash and we'd go through the long grasses and pretend, and I just was really, really getting very into it.
Yeah, yeah,
And they were fifth graders, I believe. So it was Jesse Aarons and Leslie Burke, and they raced each other at school. And she was super smart, and she was a tomboy. And Jesse was a little more poor than her, a little less well-to-do, and he's kind of not in the greatest place in his life. And he meets this girl. She's well off. She's smart. She's cool. She's not like a bad guy just because she's well
yeah,
off. She's super cool, and he kind of just takes to her, and they become these great friends, and his life gets so much better from meeting her. So when they create this kingdom, they name it, or Leslie names it, Terabithia. And anyway, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go do this very same thing. That's what I
mm-hmm.
was thinking. And in my head, I saw myself. Anyway, spoiler alert, everyone, Leslie ends up dropping friggin' dead in the middle. Literally, I remember
No! Oh
it
God.
was the middle of the book. I remember stopping and looking at the book thinking, it's only halfway through. Dare,
How
how
dare
dare they do this to me?
I hate it when they
I
kill
was,
people at the end in
they
the
did it in
middle of the book.
the middle of the friggin' book.
Screw
This is
that.
another 70s book. I think it was published in 77, if anybody wants to know. Anyway, the kid was doing so well. They came up with this beautiful thing, but it was started to be censored a lot in the 90s because I think people thought it was too stark of a death portrayal for children. It
Too
really did.
stark.
It really did screw me up, you guys. And I'm sure it helped somebody out there, but it really it messed me up. And there is a direct reference to Chronicles of Narnia in that book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said, I feel like I got some of these ideas from Chronicles of Narnia. Whoever wrote this, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, sorry, Catherine Patterson. She kind of pulled from it, so she kind of paid it homage in the book. She's just like, she mentions it, that they're kind of doing a Narnia thing. But the thing that was also bothersome about the book was that Leslie attempted to go visit the place on her own, and she smacks her head on a rock and drowns in the creek, which I was like, really? Because I always
What
jumped
the
over
F?
stuff. I was so mad.
Oh my God.
And
You know what? That's the kind of book. I'm not joking. If I was like,
yeah,
15 or whatever, reading that book, I would, as soon as she died, I would fling it across the room and not finish the book.
I
And I
was
would throw the book in the garbage.
I might have done that. And then the whole thing with he was afraid she'd go to hell, and because she, wasn't. I think she had a different religion than him, and he was taught something very certain. Like maybe it was she had to be baptized, or God knows what. I don't know what. But he was very concerned about what happened to her now that she's dead. Is she really going to hell because of what my parents taught me? And I was in that boat too. Like in my parents, like you have to be baptized, or or whatever. So that was another thing that was in my head. So anyway, that was as you said, a gut punch. And
Dang.
those books screwed us up, I gotta say.
That
And
it
was
was,
there?
those should have labels on them. Like
I mean,
I need a
I think it's in the
label on a
censorship
book.
though.
No, I need a label. That's not censorship. It's just
Okay,
identification, right? It's not saying you can't buy this book. It's saying warning,
mature
gut
themes.
punch inside. Like just give me a gut punch label cuz
You know what? They do have those because I do work the book fair at the middle school quite often. And there are books, and I don't know what's in them, but a kid will come up and with her friend, like, a little snotty girl. And sorry, girls, some of you are not that nice. Anyway, with her cash and flung it at me, all rude. Anyway, and then I ring it up, I scan it with my little scanner. Thanks, Scholastic Books.
boop.
And it's all boop boop. It's all mature themes. It'll say like, "Hey, this is a little crazy."
No, mature themes, that's like sex, swearing, drugs, you
Some
know.
of it is that though. It encompasses
It
all.
doesn't say sad, gut punch, gonna,
You can, hey, little bitch,
you're
you're
gonna
gonna
be thinking
cry.
about it
No, it doesn't say that.
5 decades later,
And if
and
anything, they just got excited. They're like, "Yeah, no, I really want it." It's like that PMRC sticker that Tipper Gore put on this Twisted
oh,
Sister album, which increased the sales like
right.
50-fold.
Which suddenly
That's
made
all it would do.
everyone the parental advice. I was working at a record store when that all happened.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and
So
oh my God, it was such a thing. Like the news came into our store and there
so
were parents
the
and
Filthy
we're all just like,
15.
dude, really?
The Filthy 15, some of
Whatever.
them were really bad, like those Prince, Darling Nikki. Like, okay, fine, that's pretty bad. They should have had the whole thing just Prince songs, like, because some of those She Bop by Cyndi Lauper is on the
Right.
Filthy 15. Come on.
Well, but that's the whole
Come
thing.
on,
It's like, okay,
guys.
who's the
Yeah.
arbiter of, what is gonna mess up somebody or not? I mean, to be frank,
Okay.
I think listening to Darling Nikki by Prince when I was, 15,
Ooh.
16, that affected me a lot less than reading The Damn Bear's House. Okay?
The
Because,
damn Bears House. Bridget Terabithia fucked my shit up. Sorry, everybody. It
yeah,
was awful.
well, thank you. And was there a warning sticker on the bridge of Terabithia that said, this is gonna F your shit up? Like, come on, man. Like,
No.
That's just silly. It's all nonsense. But I also am well known in my circle of friends. If I see a movie and I think a character unjustly dies and it upsets me because I didn't want the character to die, and I didn't think the character should die, I get very upset and I text and phone friends and spoil it.
Oh my.
It's
Oh
and
my.
I believe this is directly as a result of of two things: Old
The
Yeller.
Bear's house. Old Yeller.
And I mean, when they shoot that dog, holy
Oh,
crap! Who doesn't burst into tears the first time you see that?
you have no heart if you don't burst into tears.
No, it's
You're made of stone.
right. And then the Bear's house. Like, what do you mean that just ended? Like, what do you mean I don't find out that they have happily ever after? Like, get
Well, you
out
know
of
what? I
here.
will say there are two books that did the opposite. There are two books that helped me grow as a person,
Okay, what are those?
legitimately. These
Which,
are
you know
other.
what, Aim,
Hmm.
before you go into those, we are out of time. So
Oh,
let's say goodbye, and then we'll continue part 2 of books. What do you think?
okay. Yes, let's do
Okay.
it.
All right. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We are going to continue this and we'll put them out at the same time so that if you're interested in our book talk, you can just listen to both episodes at once. But we love you guys. Like, we are so grateful for you
Thank
being
you
there.
guys for joining us.
Yeah, right. And hit us up on Instagram and or Twitter. And we have a website, glitterboomgirls.com. But we really like to hear feedback from you. So let us know what books punched you in the gut.
Right?
All right. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, guys.